Kevin Gausman had some choice words to say about Alek Manoah and his struggles last year. It was no secret that Alek Manoah was one of the worst qualified starting pitchers in all of baseball, but Kevin Gausman has a theory as to why that may have happened, so we'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jay's Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, Alek Manoah struggled a lot last year. He wasn't himself. He was a lot worse than a lot of us may have expected. We expected some regression because a 2.2 ERA is just not something that you can sustain over the course of an entire career. But for him to go from that and a Cy Young finalist to nearing an ERA nearing 6, I mean, that's just unprecedented and something that we could not have seen coming. And obviously, he wasn't in the best shape possible coming into the season. He just didn't look like himself at any point in the year. And we touched on it, Nick, multiple times, that arm fatigue and just him being taxed over the course of his first full season in the major leagues may have contributed to his struggles that we saw this season, but not to this extent. And we touched on it. We said this could be the reason why, and Kevin Gausman may have just confirmed that for us.
Yeah, we've been waiting for a while to hear some sort of, player or coach speak out on what the real problem was, and Gausman finally did that. Before we get into this, quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 10,000, and about 75% of you guys who are watching are not subscribed. But let's get right into the video right now. We have a lot to discuss. Like you said, Peter, it's very, very interesting because Kevin Gausman went out on a Blue Jays Foul Territory podcast, TV show, YouTube Live, whatever you want to call it, and made some very intriguing comments regarding Alek Manoah's preparation and physical shape ahead of his nightmare 2023 season. Now, like you said, Peter, we discussed this a lot, and I'll get into the exact quotes in a second, but the main thing was he had a huge workload in 2022, and the expectations were super high, and Gausman came out and weighed in on the season saying, quote, "I think he came in and maybe tried to push it and get ready for opening day a little too early and never got into a good spot with arm and his mechanics." So Gausman thinks that, again, arm fatigue. He may have pushed too hard in spring training, which combined with the 200 plus innings he pitched in 2022 ultimately led to his potential downfall. Peter, what are your thoughts on these comments? I think they're very, very insightful, very thoughtful out of Kevin Gausman. He said it very respectfully. If you actually watched the clip, he said it as good as you could have. And I think that, this is probably true. Arm fatigue, mix of not being in shape and pushing himself too hard, especially because he was named the opening day starter and was super excited about it.
Yeah, Kevin Gausman's a great leader, great teammate to have on this Blue Jays team, and we touched on it multiple times, Nick. He didn't pitch too much in the minor leagues. I mean, this was a guy that had immediate success once he hit the pro circuit. He was great in college, so he skipped a lot of steps in his development, and for good reason. I mean, he was dominant. Why would you keep him in the minor leagues if he's ready to go and he's already an advanced prospect? I mean, it's not like he was some 20-year-old kid like Ricky Tiedemann is, and you're bringing him up after just 70 innings. He was ready to go. He was ready for the major leagues, and he hit the ground running. 111 innings in his first season as a big leaguer when he came up kind of a few weeks into the year with the Blue Jays. And then the year after that, 196 regular season innings. So that's an innings jump of 85. That's a lot to put on a young arm. And that's like double. That's double his workload right there. And it's just unrealistic to expect that out of him. But the Jays needed it. Yusei Kikuchi was struggling all year long. Ross Stripling had to step into the rotation. Hyunjin Ryu was hurt. So the Jays needed Alek Manoah, and they needed each and every one of those 196 innings. And then you watch that happen, and he looks like a horse. He looks like a guy that you can rely upon start in, start out. And come to this year, and he's just not the same. The velocity was a little bit down. The movement wasn't as sharp. And those are telling signs that fatigue is really happening right there. So I wouldn't be shocked. And when it comes to Alek Manoah being traded this offseason or looking elsewhere and trying to trade him for other positions of need, I'm totally against that. And I know we've discussed it maybe for some Cardinals hitters or any other young promising hitters. To trade him at his lowest point right now after finishing third in Cy Young voting and showing that he can potentially be an ace down the line, it would just be a huge mistake for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I'd be totally against it. They should not even explore that right now unless they can get a package that they would have gotten similar if they were to trade him in 2022.
Yeah, and again, he had some strong words, and a lot of people are standing on your side of this. There's a big, supporter of Alek Manoah saying that I'm hoping my team doesn't give up on Alek Manoah. He's our future ace, etc. And I agree. I don't think we should trade him. I mean, there's not many. He's a kind of a unique circumstance, at least in over the past few years, to where he didn't pitch very well or very much in the minor leagues in college, but he had so much success in the major leagues that he was forced to pitch almost 200 innings. It wasn't over 200 innings, but about 200 innings, and which ultimately led to a severe amount of fatigue in his arm, his preparation. And you mentioned his confidence and things like that. His confidence fell immediately. He was named the opening day starter. He had the horrible start, and then ultimately he he started to fall off a little bit. And regarding a trade, I tend to agree. We're seeing a lot of packages thrown out there for Dylan Carlson, and we'll probably discuss them in some future videos as well, depending how much traction that the trades actually get. But trading him at the lowest point is not something that I don't think makes a lot of sense, because backed up by these comments as well. I mean, if this is the case and his arm was fatigued, he did not pitch that many innings this year, only pitching 87, which is the least in his major league career. So if he can come back rejuvenized, we saw in off-season workouts posts on Instagram that he's starting to feel in better shape, starting to get in better shape, then he's prone for a bounce back year. Even if it's like a middling 3 to a low 4 ERA, that's still a solid asset to have in your team as a number 5 starter, and not for someone like Dylan Carlson. Nolan Gorman might be a different conversation, but a guy like Dylan Carlson, I don't think I would want to pull the trigger on that. And trading him, you're asking to lose the trade at that point, because the best thing you're getting if you trade for Dylan Carlson, we know what Dylan Carlson's ceiling is to a degree, and Manoah's ceiling is much higher.
Look, we've all been hearing about the fracture in the relationship between the Blue Jays front office and Alek Manoah, but it's in its early stages right now. This only happened last year when he got sent down the second time. So it's only been a few months here where they've really been going back and forth, the two sides, that is. And it's something that can be worked out. You got to put your egos aside if you're Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro, and Alek Manoah as well, to a certain degree. Put the ego aside, get ready to work in this offseason, and by all accounts, it looks like he's going ahead and doing that. So put it aside, put the egos at the door, leave them there, and just get to work if you're both sides here. Try to work this thing out. Try to get back to the place that you were in 2022, because Alek Manoah on his cheap contract right now is such a valuable asset to the Toronto Blue Jays, who are looking to not increase their payroll and still remain just as competitive. So you don't want to lose that kind of asset. It would be horrible asset management to trade him, especially at his lowest value right now. So I'm totally against it, unless you could totally fleece a team that thinks they're getting an ace caliber Alek Manoah. Do it, but apart from that, no thank you.
Yeah, and I'm hoping if they do end up making a trade for him, which I hope they don't, and they have someone else lined up to take over that number 5 starter spot, whether that's someone like Yamamoto or anyone else. But I don't know. It's very, very interesting discussion to have, and that'll wrap it up. I'm just glad that we have Kevin Gausman on the contract that we have him on, because that seems like one of the best signings of Ross Atkins' tenure as a Blue Jay. Because with all these contracts the Jays are getting now, it's starting to get very, very wild. But let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are on Manoah, what your hopes are on Manoah. If you want to see your video from yesterday, click on your screen right now, and we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video.